My name is Lucas Silva, and I need to confess something I have carried for 7 years. I'm 23 years old today, but it all started when I was just 16, on a hot December afternoon in Jequié, in the interior of Bahia, Brazil. It was 2018, and I was that skinny teenager, always wearing a low cap, trying to hide the sad eyes I inherited from my father. We lived in a small 2-room house in the Novo Horizonte neighborhood, where the asphalt ends in the middle of the street and the rest is red dirt that sticks to your feet when it rains. My mother, Dona Celia, worked cleaning the homes of wealthy families downtown. My father had died in a motorcycle accident when I was 12, leaving behind only debts and an absence that hurt more than any breakup. It was me, my mother, and my little sister, Ana Clara, who was only 8 years old at the time. We got by however we could. I helped by selling coconut water at the square, but I always felt that something was missing. A purpose, a place where I belonged. That was when I met Pastor Davy. He arrived at our evangelical church like a hurricane. Young, handsome, spoke with a conviction that made even the elders nod their heads emotionally. He was about 35 years old, always in impeccable white sneakers and a blue dress shirt that contrasted with his shiny black skin. He quickly became the darling of the congregation, especially among the youth. He spoke of miracles, of healings, of how God had great plans for each of us. I was enchanted. For the first time, someone seemed to see something in me beyond that skinny, sad boy. Pastor Davy called me a warrior, saying God had a special purpose for my life. He would spend hours talking to me after services, teaching me verses, giving me little coloring books with Bible stories. Even though I was already a teenager, I accepted because it was attention, it was affection. It was in one of those conversations that he mentioned the São Jorge Umbanda temple. He spoke with a tone that mixed pity and indignation, saying that there, they dealt with evil spirits, that they defiled the purity of our city. I had never noticed the temple before. It was in a dark alley behind the municipal market, a simple building with exposed bricks, always smelling of corn husks and incense mixed with the aroma of Bahian food coming from the nearby stalls. Pastor Davy began to plant an idea. He said that God needed courageous warriors, that sometimes it was necessary to take drastic measures to protect the community. I, with my adolescent mind hungry for belonging, drank in every word. He showed me verses from the Old Testament about destroying pagan altars, about the fight between good and evil. And I believed. Every word was like a hammer shaping my perception of the world. My mother noticed my change. "Lucas, you're different," she said while cooking beans in the clay pot. More withdrawn, more restless. But I brushed it off. How could I explain that I had finally found a purpose? How could I say that I was chosen by God for an important mission? My sister, Ana Clara, with her big child's eyes, was the only one who could still make me smile. She loved it when I told her made-up stories before bed, always with happy endings where the hero saved everyone. If she only knew her brother would become a real-life villain. My only friends at the time were Tiago and Jessica. Tiago was the typical school nerd, always with fantasy books and fogged-up glasses. Jessica was bolder, wore colorful clothes, and had natural red hair that drew attention. They didn't go to church. Tiago was an atheist and Jessica had a spiritist grandmother, but they accepted me as I was. Or at least as I was before I was poisoned by Pastor Davy's words. "Lucas, you're acting weird," Jessica said one afternoon as we drank soda at the corner bar. "Like more fanatical. That's not you." I got annoyed. I explained that she didn't understand, that I was in the light now. Tiago just shook his head, worried. "Careful, man. Sometimes we think we're doing good, but we're just being manipulated." I laughed at them. Ridiculous. They would regret it when I completed my sacred mission. Pastor Davy prepared me for weeks. He taught me specific prayers for protection against evil spirits, gave me a wooden crucifix he had blessed himself. And then, on a Wednesday, he made the proposal. "Lucas, God revealed to me that you are the chosen one. We need to act against that house of Satan." My mom was at work, Ana Clara at school. We were alone in the church hall, with those cold tube lights that made everything gray. He explained the plan calmly. We would break images, knock down everything that represented the false gods. He would give me money afterward. so your mother won't suspect anything. And the promise, God will greatly reward you. My heart was pounding. It was my chance to prove I was worthy, that I was special. I asked about the consequences. God protects his warriors, he assured me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the zinc roof of my house and saw the ghosts of what I was about to do. But I also saw the proud look Pastor Davi would have, the approval I always wanted. The next day, I skipped school. I waited until 3 in the afternoon, when the temple would be empty. The priest, Mr. Zay, always left at that hour to buy supplies. My mom kept an old house key on the kitchen window. I took it without her seeing, pretended I was going to play soccer. I walked to the dark alley behind the market. The temple seemed bigger when empty. Strong smell of leaves, cachaça, and something I couldn't identify. My hands trembled as I pushed open the cracked wooden gate. Inside, it was a mix of colors and smells that made me nauseous. Images of old black men, caboclos, children, all with eyes that seemed to judge me. There were dried flowers, cachaça bottles, cigarettes, coins. I remember every detail because those images haunt me to this day. The first saint I broke was Ogham's. The heavy clay statue fell to the ground with a dry sound. I felt a chill down my spine, but I went on. I broke more images, knocked over everything I could, tore colored cloths, and then I did something I've never told anyone until now. Something that shames me so much I can barely write it. I saw a clay pot with dark liquid. It was an offering, chicken blood mixed with other things. In a fit of hatred I don't even understand, I poured it all on the floor and relieved myself there. Yes, I urinated in the sacred place. It's humiliating to admit, but it's the truth. I wanted to desecrate in every possible way. When I finished, I was sweaty and shaking. I took the $200 Pastor Davi had promised me. He was waiting at a nearby corner. God is proud of you, warrior, he said, hugging me. I should have felt proud, but I only felt empty, an emptiness that would soon be filled by something far worse. The first 48 hours went by too smoothly. I bought new sneakers with the money, lied to my mom saying I had saved up. But on the third night, it started. I woke up in a cold sweat, seeing shadows dancing in the corner of the room. Dark shapes that seemed to have red eyes. Screams inside my head in a language I didn't understand. My mom thought it was a fever, gave me chamomile tea. But I knew it wasn't. The following days were a living nightmare. I lost weight rapidly. In 2 weeks I had lost 7 kilos. My skin became a sickly pale. Ana Clara cried every time she saw me, saying my look had changed. Tiago and Jessica came to visit, but I couldn't look them in the eyes. Jessica, who had a spiritist grandmother, even suggested I talk to someone at the temple. I yelled at her, saying it was the devil's work. She left crying. Pastor Davi distanced himself from me. When I sought him out, saying I was being tormented, he looked at me coldly. This is a trial, warrior. Pray harder. But I saw the fear in his eyes. He was scared too. Of me. Of what he had done. I started hearing voices when I was alone. Voices that accused me, that reminded me of every piece of broken clay, every desecration. My mom took me to doctors, general practitioners, psychiatrists. They all said it was teenage stress. Prescribed tranquilizers that had no effect. One night I woke up to my own voice screaming. My mom rushed in and found me scratching the walls until I bled. That's when she decided to keep me away from the church. I won't let you go there anymore, she said firmly. But it was already too late. The worst happened on a Sunday. I was home alone. My mother had taken Ana Clara to my aunt's house. The shadows became denser, more real. I saw figures of old black men and caboclos around me, but they weren't like the images I broke. They were angry. One of them, an old black man with a straw hat, pointed at me and said in a grave tone, "You have 3 days to redeem yourself, or you'll be ours forever." I fainted. When I woke up, I was in a place I'd never seen before. A simple house but full of light. The smell of fennel and basil. And there he was, Mr. Zay, the priest of the temple I had desecrated. He was about 60 years old, dark-skinned and marked by time, eyes that held ancient wisdom. He wore impeccable white, and on his chest was a wooden crucifix, the same one I had broken. "You woke up, kid," he said in a neutral tone. "You were pretty pale." I tried to get up, but my legs wouldn't obey. How did I get here?" He sat in a wicker chair, staring at me. "Your neighbors heard you screaming. They called me. I knew what it was." Silence weighed in. My eyes filled with tears. "It was me," I whispered. "I was the one who destroyed your temple." Mr. Zay said nothing for a long minute. Then he got up, went to a wooden shelf, and got something. It was a piece of the broken Ogum statue. "Do you know what this is?" I shook my head, crying. It was the image I broke." He nodded. "Ogum is the Oriksha of justice, of war when necessary, but always for justice. You didn't just break clay, you broke the balance." I told him everything. About Pastor Davi, about the money, about the desecration. Every word was agony, but Mr. Zay just listened. When I finished, he took a deep breath. "What you did was serious, kid, but I see in you something Pastor Davi doesn't have, real remorse." He stood up, went to a corner of the house where there was a small table with candles. "You're going to pay for what you've done, but not with your soul, with real justice." Recovery was slow. Mr. Zay gave me teas, herbal baths, prayed things I didn't understand, but slowly calmed me. The shadows began to fade. The voices ceased, but he was clear. "You have to confess, to the police, to the judge, to the world." I trembled. "My mom will die of grief." He looked at me firmly. "Better she lives and grieves than you die, and she doesn't know the truth." That's how 3 days later I was at the police station. My mother cried until she fainted when she heard. Ana Clara didn't understand. She just knew her brother had done something very wrong. Tiago and Jessica came to visit me in juvenile detention. Yes, I was held in custody. Jessica looked me in the eye and said, "You are brave, Lucas. Braver than I ever imagined." Tiago just hugged me, crying. Pastor Davi was arrested too. The police investigated and discovered he had a scheme, convincing teenagers to vandalize temples, then extorting the priests with paid prayers to drive the devil away. It was an entire network of hate he maintained. When I learned this, I felt disgusted with myself. How could I have been so blind? I was sentenced to 2 years in the reformatory. It sounds short, but every day was an eternity. My mother visited every week, even while crying. Ana Clara sent me drawings from school, always with messages of, "I love you, brother." Tiago and Jessica didn't abandon me either. And Mr. Zay, he wrote me letters. Letters teaching me about respect, about culture, about how every religion has its value. In the reformatory, I met Marcos. He was a black social educator, descendant of Quilombolas, who introduced me to the real history of my region. I learned about the persecution of temples during the dictatorship, about how syncretism saved many traditions. Marcos made me read books about Afro-Brazilian religions, made me understand how ignorant I had been. "Prejudice is lack of knowledge," he said. I also met Carol. She was a volunteer who taught art classes at the reformatory. She was 19, curly hair tied up in a messy bun, green eyes that seemed to see through people. At first, I avoided looking at her. I felt dirty, unworthy. But she was persistent. "Lucas, your art has something to say," she insisted. She made me draw, paint, write about what I felt. It was through art that I began to redeem myself. I drew the temple as it was before I destroyed it, painted the saints I broke, wrote apology letters I never sent. Carol read everything, cried with me. "You're changing," she said once. "Not out of obligation, but by choice." And she was right. When I turned 18, I was released. Mr. Zay was there at the door waiting. "I came to get my apprentice," he said to the guard. My mother cried when she saw me. I was thinner, more mature, but I was her son back. Ana Clara ran into my arms. "You came back different, but you came back," she said. She knew I had done something wrong, but she loved me just the same. Mr. Zay offered me work, not at the temple. He said that would be too much for me for now. But he helped me get a job at a stationery store, where I started as a stock clerk. I worked from 8 to 5, came home exhausted but clean. On Saturdays, I went to visit Mr. Zay. He taught me about herbs, about the Oryxas, but without pressing me to believe. "Knowledge is never too much," he said. Carol became my girlfriend. It started timidly. She was afraid I would confuse gratitude with love. But I knew it was more. She was someone who had seen my worst and still saw something good. "You taught me people can change," she said once, "and that's rare." We went to the movies, had acai at the square, talked about everything. She helped me deal with the anxiety attacks that still came. 2 years later, Pastor Davi was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The news spread through the city. Many people at the church distanced themselves from him when they learned the truth. But I didn't feel revenge, just sadness. Sadness for all the teenagers he had manipulated, for all the families destroyed. One Sunday afternoon, I went to the temple. Mr. Z had rebuilt everything with the help of the community, which came together when they learned the story. He welcomed me dressed in white, as always. "Ready, kid?" I nodded. I wasn't ready, but I needed to do it. In the presence of the whole temple community, I knelt. I talked about what I did, about my remorse, about how I wanted to help rebuild what I'd destroyed. One by one, the members came to hug me. Mr. Z's daughter, Mrs. Maria, who was 40 and a priestess, cried as she hugged me. "You are proof that forgiveness exists," she said. I started attending the temple as a volunteer, not as a devotee. I respected my evangelical upbringing too much for that, but as a helper. I arranged chairs, cleaned the floor, helped carry water. I learned about each Oryxa, about the history of resistance each temple represents. Jessica spoke to me again, saying she was proud. Tiago too, though he kept his skeptical stance. "You're being yourself again," he said. Carol and I moved in together when I was 21. A small apartment, but ours. She still taught art classes. I had been promoted to store manager. On Sundays, we had lunch with my mom and Ana Clara, who was now 14 and a teenager full of opinions. "You're my hero, brother," she said once, "because you showed it's possible to fix what we break." Mr. Zay passed away last year. He left the temple in Mrs. Maria's care, but he left me something too, a book of herbal recipes with notes on each plant, each cure. On the first page, there was a dedication to Lucas, who learned that true strength lies in recognizing our mistakes. So Zay. I cried like never before. Today, at 23, I work in a social project that unites young people of different religions. We show that respect is possible, that diversity is wealth. Carol and I are planning a wedding, something simple, with the people we love. My mother, now retired, helps take care of the project's children. Ana Clara wants to be a psychologist, to help teenagers as I was helped. I saw Pastor Davy once, during a visit to the prison. He looked older, thinner, with empty eyes. "Forgive me, Lucas," he said. I looked at him and felt something unexpected, compassion. "I already forgave you, Pastor, but you need to forgive yourself too." He cried. I don't know if he managed. Sometimes I still have nightmares. I still see the shadows when I'm very stressed. But now I know they're memories, not curses. And when I wake up, Carol is there, hugging me. Or my mother, who now understands her son made mistakes but learned. Or Ana Clara, who brings me water and says, "Remember that you're stronger than your fears." The São Jorge Temple stands strong. Mrs. Maria calls me son at heart. I help with repairs, with events, always as a volunteer. One day, a teenage girl arrived there, a victim of religious bullying at school. I choked up seeing her sad eyes. I was able to hug her and say, "You're not alone, and no one has the right to make you feel lesser for your beliefs." I know I took the wrong paths. I know I was manipulated, but I was also responsible for my choices. The black magic that consumed me wasn't from the temples. It was the hatred Pastor Davi sowed. The forgiveness I received doesn't erase what I did. but it allows me to live trying to be better. I end this confession with gratitude. Gratitude to Mr. Z, who taught me that true religion is love. To my mother, who never gave up on me. To Carol, who showed me I am worthy of love. To Tiago and Jessica, who remind me true friends stay. To Ana Clara, who makes me want to be an example. And even to Pastor Davi, because without that pain, maybe I'd never have found my true path. If you've read this far, know that it's possible to fix what we break. That forgiveness exists, but it starts with the truth. That every religion has its beauty when practiced with respect, and that, above all, we are human beings seeking love and acceptance. Comment, share your opinion. If you have been through something similar, know you are not alone. Redemption is possible. I am living proof of that. Lucas Silva, former vandal, now a builder of bridges between hearts.